It's me again. So, I've been doing this Mind Valley class, and it's been on like inspiring, like speaking and sharing your story. And today, I actually did a phone call today where I am going to send my biography off to a publisher, and it's taken a lot for me because like I've struggled with, you know, trust issues and stuff. And, like I've gone through a lot of like mental illness and a bunch of mental health diagnoses, like being paranoid and schizophrenic and bipolar psychotic tendencies. And I've been through a lot of trauma and traumatic experiences in my life. Um, and it was interesting because um, Lisa, the lady that was just speaking, was talking about telling your story and actually like going into it, but making sure you come back up out of it so you don't leave somebody stuck in what you're feeling. And um, I began thinking about where I've come from. And when she was talking about like uh, taking like certain incidents and sharing, like, and, putting all the pieces together. I was thinking, like, like I can't think of just one incident because my incidents started long ago, and it all became like one trailing incident. And I say that to say um, a lot started with addiction, like, and not just my addiction, but in my family, and seeing it growing up and living through it and experiencing it like firsthand, like not per se me, but and then also my dad involving me and my sister and my other family members doing it around us, and then my mom and aunts, uncles. I mean, you name it. And so I wanted to talk about addiction today, even though it really didn't seem like that when I started the video. Um, I was just kind of letting you know like where I'm at and why I want to share what I want to share today. Um, because letting you know where I'm at and where I was, I feel like is really important. Um, and so I started using at an early age with my dad. And sometimes I wanted to drink with him, and other times, like, it was forced down my throat. Um, and so I grew up thinking that, drinking every day was normal, even as a child. Uh, it was just an everyday normal thing, and smoking weed. I didn't really know about, the heavier drugs. And then I got into my teenage years, and, you know, I found out about them, and I started using all kinds of stuff. And, I thought that I was in the worst of the worst I could be in when I started using cocaine as a teenager and started selling it. And I remember, like, I used to use so much cocaine that my nose would be so like stuffed, like I couldn't even breathe, and I'd be sitting over a humidifier, my nose bleeding. And this is going to be graphic. I'm just going to let you know I'm like going all in because, I hope there's somebody out there watching that actually hears this message and never touches it or turns away from what they're doing right now, because, it can get worse. And so I'd be sitting over a humidifier and my nose would be bleeding, and I would be sitting over the humidifier because I would want my nose to be unclogged enough for me to snort another line. It wasn't even about my nose hurting or how much pain I was in. It would just be like, how can I get more drugs inside of me? And it was because I was hurting. Um, and I was going through so much pain, and even though I was surrounded by so many people, uh, I still felt alone and empty inside and broken. And that was hard, you know what I mean? Because, I would have tons of girls sitting on my living room just in awe over me, with my girlfriend sitting right next to me. And just sitting there, like, watching me, like, my every move, and I'm telling stories and being my goofy, funny self. But all the while, I was dying inside. I was empty. I was afraid. I was scared. I was confused. I was alone. Um, I didn't feel like I belonged. Um, and so I continued trying to ease the pain with just more and more and more, and then infusing pain and injecting pain, like, in the sense of, um, how I could get more drugs in me, and how I could torment myself just a little bit more. And so, I was already struggling with mental illness and stuff then. So I just intensified it. And as time went on, like, I realized, like, those people that were all sitting around while I was using, that I thought were admiring me and were like into me, I realized real quick that once the drugs ran out or the money ran out, they weren't there anymore. And so I began to take on even more pain and insecurities, because I was like, okay, so if I don't have money and drugs, I don't have friends, I don't have people that like me or love me or care about me. And so I hurt myself even more by, how can I have to open my pockets? How can I get money in my pockets? You know what I mean? Like, nobody's gonna give it to me. How can I get it? And I was always with, like, older women and stuff like that, had parents that, had money, and, would drop everything to help them if they called them, and I didn't know what that was like. Um, and so I had to get it on my own. And I was always coming across people that, would drop things in my lap, it's like, what? It never made any sense. And so I built my self esteem up on, you know, who loved me according to what I had. If I didn't have anything, then I allowed people to control that self esteem by who was paying attention to me or who wasn't. And so I relieved all of that with drugs. And people always ask you, like, what was your drug of choice? And the answer is always more. And it was more of anything that I could get. And what I mean by that is, if I didn't know what it was, I wanted to try it. If I didn't know how it affected me, I tried it to see how it reacted to it. And did I care if it killed me or if it hurt me or what it did to me? No, but I wanted more, because I didn't want to feel the feelings that I felt inside. And so anytime somebody had something or something was going on, I was like, I'm there. I want to be a part of it. If it's something that's going to hurt me, yeah, it's going to help me in some way. And I know that sounds really backwards, but that's really how I thought. And so that's how I lived my life. And I got into, the party scene, which I kind of already was a part of that, but I got heavier into it. And, I was really promiscuous, and I went from one relationship to another, and sometimes was in another relationship while I was in a relationship already, and then sleeping with somebody else at the same time or multiple people. And I never really cared about other people's feelings, because it was like how I felt and how empty I was. And you know how they say hurt people hurt people. Well, it was like consistently happening in my life. I was a hurt person, consistently hurting people, and people were consistently hurting me. Um, and honestly, like, I didn't care. I didn't care how they felt, because I was like, well, they've got everything anyways. You know what I mean? Like, what does it matter if they have me? And I think people, and I'm not saying this to, talk about myself or anything, but like, I recognize that people, like, had an unhealthy obsession with me at times, and I fed off of that. I fed off the fact that I was good in bed, that, I might not have anything else, but one thing you couldn't top me at was the bedroom. And, you know, like, um, I used that to my advantage because that's all I felt like I had. And so not only was I um, taking away from them, but I was, downplaying myself because I was so much more than that, but I couldn't see it at the time. I was young, I was dumb, and when they say like full of comment, I'm not trying to be funny, but that's like a thing. And we don't think when we're younger, and we're not fully developed. And um, I think about how it was in the world then, and I think about how it is in the world now. And I say that to say this, like if it was me feeling like that then, like how do kids feel now? And so that's why it's important that I share this story and express how far this can really go. Because even if you're just dabbling in it now, um, just know that there's a way that you can quit right now, right where you're at, and not go any further. And I hope that you really take in what I'm saying because uh, it's important. And so I continued on, and so I was in this relationship, and um, I was so getting so high all the time. I was really big on, like my dad always taught me there was diseases out there, and you didn't want them, and it was crazy, and I didn't know much about them, but I slept with this person one night. I was on ecstasy, and I didn't think anything of it. Like, really pretty girl. You know what I mean? Like, I was like, not one thought went through my head like this could be somebody that, could potentially have diseases, right? And so I slept with him, and I ended up being in a relationship with this person. And later on, like, I found out that they had herpes and genital warts. And by the grace of God, I did not get them, and that's something that God protected me from. And I'm telling you, like, God's protected me from a lot. And so I continued on in my promiscuity and continued in my drug use because I was like, well, I was safe, I'm good, didn't matter. And I found out, oh, I can't get it unless it's active, or like, there's a breakout. And I'm not gonna lie, I messed around again, and I was like, man, I was protected again. And one time I got these skin tags, and I was like, I freaked out, and I was like, oh my god, I got, you know what I mean, and I went to a bunch of doctors a million times since, you know what I mean, because I'm like a fanatic about it, and God has protected me, and so I continued on in that drug use, and I was like, oh man, this cocaine habit is so bad. Like, I was like, good God, like, I don't know how it could get any worse, and I just craved these drugs, and I couldn't do anything without them. And um, I was drinking all the time from morning to night, like everything in between. They call it a functioning addict, but really it's a dysfunctional person. You're not functioning, you're just dysfunctional because you can't function without it. And it's, like, I couldn't, if I didn't have drugs or alcohol, I could not maintain through a day. Or I didn't think I could, or I didn't believe I could, or I didn't really want to. It's not that I didn't think or believe, I just didn't want to. I didn't choose to. And so, because it is a choice. And so, I lived my life thinking that I needed drugs to maintain, to survive, to continue taking steps forward. And all I was doing was taking steps backwards every single day because I wasn't living life. I wasn't excelling. I wasn't getting anywhere. And I was watching everybody around me, sometimes you get out of the life, or, like, separating from a relationship, and they were getting better and I was getting worse. And I was like, man, maybe it's me. And then I was like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? Like, I came into this thing that wasn't me, or, it was like, so I would get worse. Um, and so I was like, okay, they're going back to their families. I'm still alone. And what can I use next? So around the age, well, 18, I started probation. 21, I went to prison. And I'm not going to go into details about things right now. I'm really just going into the drug scene right now. And so I went to prison. I came out of prison. I got with a probation parole officer. I'm like, oh, I need structure, right? I'm like, I got out of prison. Maybe this person will help me get my life back on track, Um, la di da, and so I was like, okay, this is cool. Um, I got with this person, and they introduced me to opiates. I didn't know what an opiate was. You know what I mean? Like, I knew my mom had taken pills. Like, I knew I had had Vicodin back in the day, but I never got addicted to Vicodin. They would just sit around, with Adderall or Xanax, and I wasn't a pill popper like that. I just took bumps of cocaine all the time. Just bumps, like tons and tons. Um, and so I was like, opiates, what's that? And this girl was like, man, you gotta try these Roxy's. And I'm like, what does that do? And she's like, man, you just gotta try them. She seemed fine. You know what I mean? She didn't seem affected. She didn't tell me about, being addicted to them. There was no warning. And so next thing you know, I snort a Roxy and I'm on the toilet and I can't lift my head up. And I call it nose to toes because my nose was touching my toes. Like I could not use the bathroom because the opiate blocked up my bladder. And so I really got to pee, but I cannot go. And I'm on the toilet and I'm falling off. And this girl was videotaping me. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I keep looking up, but I can't do anything. I can't even function. I can't talk. I'm really out of it. And so I'm like, I don't understand. You know what I mean? And we keep doing. There was a lot of craziness in the beginning of that relationship and all through it. So now I'm addicted to opiates. And I'm like, what in the world am I going to do? And I didn't know I was addicted until we ran out. And I was like, what is going on? And she's like, this is withdrawal. And I'm like, withdrawal? What are you talking about? Like, you didn't tell me about this. And it was horrible. I thought I was going to die. And I was like, never again will I touch these things. Man, I was addicted, right? I was addicted to that feeling these pills gave me. And I was like, there's nothing like it. Man, that's amazing. And, all the while now, now we're cooking meth in the garage, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm telling you, this is a probation parole officer. Like, this is like, it blows my mind. And now we're cooking dope in the garage. Like, um, I mean, I'm sorry, I get a little stuck because, um, I'm going in and she's having me wear a badge and going in and she's confiscating pills from people. And I'm like, this is not good. I'm getting nervous. I'm scared. I don't realize I'm impersonating an officer at this point. She didn't tell me that. You know what I'm saying? I always said I was street smart, book smart, but I really was not either, apparently. Um, Maybe like way back in the day, I had a little bit of book smart, you know what I'm saying? Like maybe in middle school and high school, but I had lost that. I had lost that a long time ago. And common sense was like way out the door. I had none. And I had been warned about this person and I did not take heed to it. And I was just like, okay, so, and she was an addict too. So, you know what I mean? Like I don't fault anybody for anything, you know what I'm saying? Like, we've all struggled, just like the person with the STDs, you know what I'm saying? Like, they made a horrible mistake and slept with the wrong person. My thing is when people make those mistakes, they don't tell you about their mistakes, and then the cycle continues, and then they put it on you, and then it just continues on to somebody else. So that's why I'm coming to you right now and I'm saying, hey, I hope you learn from my mistakes because other people will let you make the same mistakes they make or made and not inform you. And so I want to inform you and encourage you at the same time. And so I'm like going about and I'm just like I'm getting heavier and heavier into these opiates. And man, like so many different things took place. And now we ran out of pills and we've got cocaine going on. And I mean, there's just a mix of all kinds of things to the point where we took a bunch of Benadryl because somebody told us we could trip on them. And I mean, it was outrageous. I mean, like anything we could do to get high, we were doing it. And so now, like, we meet these other girls, and they're like, "You got to try these Dilaudid, but the only way to do it is to shoot them up." And I'm like, "There is no way I will ever put a needle anywhere in my body." I'm like, absolutely freaking not. And my daddy would kill me. And My daddy almost killed me when I told him, what I almost contracted, somebody else. And so I'm like, man, never in a million years will I use a needle. I'll snort it, but I. And so they're like, you're not gonna feel it if you snort it. And I was like, man, we snorted it, and I was like, man, I that does not make me feel the same way Roxy does. So we decided we hated the lot of. So we continued on, you know what I mean, trying to, get what we could. And she was getting a prescription, and we were going through mad pills and all kinds of drugs. And so, life continued on, and we ended up separating at some point. And she, and so we continued. Um, Sorry, hold on one second. We continued moving through life, and craziness continued happening, and so we ended up separating. Crazy separation. And after we separated, we continued, coming together, hanging out, cooking dope, getting high. Oh wow, turns out we both started, you know trying to use needles. And we did end up using needles. My dad had died, and it was just like, not that we had any experience using them, but we were trying. Um, and so later on, we stopped seeing each other altogether, and um, and like I said, we were trying to use needles, like, not that it was even happening, but like we were trying to poke ourselves everywhere, because that's where you go. You go to a point where you just don't care anymore. And like I said, my dad had died, and I ended up in another area, out in Plain City, and cooking dope like crazy. I've got the green team surrounding my house every day, checking for, like signs of like a meth lab. And I'm like, I don't even know what a meth lab is, like we were doing crazy stuff. And I mean, the people across the street were really cooking dope. Like, they're the ones with the meth lab, and they're watching me, and I'm like, this is like personal use. It wasn't like mad dope like you think it was. I was not in my right mind either, obviously, because the greenie was coming around every day. And so, and this is what drugs do to you. And so you don't think straight, and you just don't care anymore. You don't care about the repercussions or consequences, or, what was going to happen to you. And so, again, I got to a lonely, desperate place in my life. And somebody gave me a needle. And I'm telling you, I was trying to, anywhere I seen like a little blue mark, I had no idea. I was stabbing myself with a needle. Yeah, I mean, I had blood everywhere, and couldn't do anything. Well, I ended up having somebody get in contact with me that had been in jail with me, because I had been in jail several times at this point, or a few times, or maybe even just one. I don't even know. Before I went to prison, yeah. And they're like, "Well, you can come stay with me." And so I go stay with them and move out back out to Largo or whatever. And I move with them and her two kids. And she's like, "Man, I got something that will take all your pain away. That you won't even feel anything, and it'd be the best feeling you ever feel in your life." And I was like, "Yeah, man, bring it on." I was like, "I don't even care anymore. Give it to me. I don't want to live. I don't care what you do. Make me feel better, right?" And so I'm like, she's like, "Lay on the bed." And I lay on the bed, face down, with my arm up in the air, like flat. And I had no idea her daughter was watching. And I'm laying there, and she shoots me up. It's probably the biggest mistake I ever made in my life. I felt like a whole body orgasm. And I was like, like I could just breathe. And I'm not saying that to encourage you. I'm saying that because it had me. I don't know if you know that song, "When a Snake Bites Into My Veins, Never Do I Wanna Be Here Again, and I Don't Remember Why I Came." That's talking about shooting up. And because it's like venom in your veins. But your body just wants more and more and more of it. And so it's like in your mind, it triggers something in your mind where you're like, I want to feel that over and over and over again. But you don't think about what is going to happen next. And so I am, am so sorry about what's happening in the background. So, you got to wake up early in the morning to pull one over on me. That's okay. Anyway. That's okay. I paid $150 for a kitty box and ain't got no key to the mailbox. And don't get my car I'm supposed to. I apologize again. That's a federal offense. Here we are. And you're the house manager. I am. You're the house manager? I'm going to end the stream right now, and I'll be right back.